Sui is trying to turn network speed into everyday payment utility by plugging into RedotPay's consumer rails. This matters because payment integrations are one of the fastest ways for a chain to move from speculative usage into transactional usage. The question is whether that usage becomes meaningful and repeatable. The key distinction is whether this becomes a real usage story or stays only an access headline. The article said RedotPay added support for Sui and native USDC on Sui and described the payment platform as serving over 7 million users in more than 100 countries. The integration was framed as an API-level connection that can verify and settle transactions through Sui's validator network. For searches like Sui Blockchain Strategic, this matters because payment integrations are one of the fastest ways for a chain to move from speculative usage into transactional usage. The question is whether that usage becomes meaningful and repeatable. Those are the confirmed pieces, and they explain exactly what changed for users right now. The supported use case included spending and transfers through a familiar payment interface rather than a pure crypto-native app. The simple mechanism is faster settlement with a consumer-facing front end already built. If the payment service handles compliance and user experience, the blockchain can focus on settlement speed and asset movement. Settlement is the back-end handoff that makes a payment final, even if the user only sees a simple app screen. In plain language, the product is trying to remove steps that used to slow people down. That affects Sui adoption, stablecoin utility on the network, and users in regions where crypto payments compete with weaker local financial rails. The appeal is convenience, because the new route removes steps that previously kept many users out. That is often enough to create a burst of interest even before deeper adoption data arrives. What is still unknown is transaction depth. A payments integration can sound impressive on user count alone, but real adoption depends on how often Sui or USDC Sui is actually used through the rails. Sui Blockchain Strategic is the phrase tied to this setup, and what is still unknown is transaction depth. A payments integration can sound impressive on user count alone, but real adoption depends on how often Sui or USDC Sui is actually used through the rails. That uncertainty matters because launch campaigns, fee holidays, and headline attention can all look bigger than the steady demand underneath them. That distinction matters here. An access event is not always an adoption event. A platform can open the door instantly, while real user behavior takes much longer to prove. The strongest launches are the ones that still show activity after the promotion period ends. Watch for transaction growth, merchant usage, and whether Sui-based USDC becomes the preferred payment asset inside the integration rather than the native token itself. That is the cleanest way to tell whether this becomes routine usage or just an attention spike. The next useful signal is not the announcement itself. It is the behavior that follows the announcement. The broader angle is that crypto products keep trying to hide complexity behind simpler interfaces. When that works, distribution expands. When it fails, the headline fades faster than the product itself. This story sits right in the middle of that test, which is why early traction has to be read carefully. For searches like Sui Blockchain Strategic, watch for transaction growth, merchant usage, and whether Sui-based USDC becomes the preferred payment asset inside the integration rather than the native token itself. The story only gets stronger if users, volume, or developers keep showing up after the first announcement wave, because that is when convenience turns into real market traction.